Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the human military station. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes were as cold and sharp as fractured glass. On the main screen, the casualty reports from New Terra scrolled endlessly. 50,000 dead, homes erased, children murdered in their sleep, an entire colony reduced to cinders. "Admiral, the other fleets are ready to pursue," said Captain Morris. "We can have 3 battle groups in hyperspace within the hour. We can catch them before they get too far." Chen shook her head slowly. "No," she said quietly. "We don't chase, we hunt." "There's a difference." She turned to her staff. Every officer in the room radiated fury. Every one of them wanted vengeance. Chen felt it too, but she knew anger made mistakes. Anger let monsters escape justice. This would require something colder. "Activate protocol persistence," she ordered. The room fell silent. Everyone understood. It wasn't a battle plan, it was a vow. A vow that justice would come no matter how long it took. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stepped forward, young but brilliant. "Ma'am, I'll need full access. Every intelligence network, every informant, every satellite, every listening post from here to the edge of known space." "You have it," Chen replied. "Find them. Every ship, every officer, every soldier who fired on New Terra. I want names, families, routines, everything. Find them." Across human space, the work began. Analysts examined debris, traced weapon signatures, studied sensor logs, and interviewed the few survivors who had hidden during the attack. Slowly, a picture formed. The Krell had used 37 ships, led by Commander Zalketh. Human intelligence identified 847 participants. But identification was only step 1. Now came the hunt. Far away in the lawless void reaches, Zalketh celebrated with his officers. They had struck the humans and escaped clean. The raid had been flawless. Loot, captives, and glory for the Kree Empire. He raised his cup. The room roared in triumph. 2 weeks later, his sensor officer reported an anomaly. "Commander, a ship is trailing us." "Extreme range. Unknown design. It keeps distance but maintains course." "Then ignore it," Zalketh said. "Some scavenger hoping for scraps." But the ship didn't leave. It followed for days, then weeks, always on the edge of detection, never close, never speaking, never gone. Zalketh altered course. The ship followed. He hid in an asteroid belt. It waited when they emerged. He jumped through hyperspace. It arrived soon after. "What do they want?" he demanded. His first officer hesitated. "Commander, other ships from our fleet report the same thing. Each one has a watcher, always following, never attacking." A chill settled in Zalketh's gut. "All of them?" "All of them. It's as if someone knows exactly where every raider hides." Back at Human Command, Webb and his team worked relentlessly. They mapped the Krell supply lines, identified their fuel depots and merchants, tracked their informants, and one by one, they cut them off. A refueling station suffered mysterious breakdowns. A merchant was arrested, and information brokers' accounts were frozen. The Krell found themselves stranded, isolated, abandoned. No fuel, no repairs, no safe harbor. And still the Watchers lingered, silent, patient, inescapable. 3 months after the raid, Zalketh's crew was unraveling. Officers flinched at shadows. Soldiers whispered that they were cursed. Every sensor sweep revealed that same human ship, waiting, watching. "Why don't they attack?" Zalketh shouted. His first officer's voice was barely steady. "Commander, they're not trying to destroy us. They're waiting, like a predator stalking prey until it's too exhausted to flee." Zalketh remembered Ambassador Vexthor's warning. The humans were not chasing in anger. They were hunting with patience. And that was far, far worse. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the human military station. Her face was composed, but her eyes were cold as frozen steel. On the main screen, the casualty reports from New Terra scrolled past. 50,000 dead, homes obliterated, children murdered in their sleep, an entire colony reduced to ash. "Admiral, the other fleets are ready to pursue," said Captain Morris. "We can have 3 battle groups in hyperspace within the hour. We can catch them before they get too far." Admiral Chen slowly shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "We don't chase, we hunt. There's a difference." She turned to face her command staff. Every officer in the room burned with fury. Every one of them wanted revenge. Chen understood that rage. She felt it too, but she also knew what it caused. Anger made mistakes. Anger let the guilty escape. This needed something colder, something patient. Activate protocol persistence, she ordered. The room fell silent. Everyone understood. It wasn't a battle plan. It was a promise. A vow that justice would come no matter how long it took. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stepped forward. Young, but already known for his sharp investigative instincts. Ma'am, I'll need access to every intelligence network we have, every informant, every spy satellite, every listening post from here to the edge of known space. You have it, Admiral Chen replied firmly. Find them. All of them. Every ship, every officer, every soldier who fired on New Terra. I want their names, their families. I want to know what they eat for breakfast. Find them! The work began at once. Across human space, intelligence officers launched a careful, methodical hunt. They sifted through the debris at New Terra, traced weapon signatures, analyzed sensor recordings from nearby systems, and interviewed the few survivors who had hidden through the carnage. Slowly, piece by piece, the picture took shape. The Krell had deployed 37 ships in the attack, commanded by one commander, Zalketh. Human analysts identified 847 individual Krell who had participated. But knowing who they were was only the beginning. The real challenge was finding them. Far away, in the lawless region known as the Void Reaches, Commander Zalketh celebrated with his officers. They had done it, struck the humans, and escaped clean. The raid had been flawless. They had seized minerals, advanced technology, and even prisoners to sell as laborers. The Krell Empire would be pleased. To victory, Zalketh declared, raising his cup. His officers cheered and drank. But the celebration did not last. 2 weeks after the raid, his sensor officer reported something unsettling. Commander, we've detected a ship at extreme range. It's maintaining distance but following our course. Zalketh frowned. What kind of ship? Unknown design, the sensor officer replied. It's small. It doesn't approach or attack, it just watches. Then ignore it, Zalketh ordered. Some scavenger hoping for scraps. We have nothing to fear. But the ship didn't leave. It shadowed them for days, then weeks. Always at the edge of sensor range. Never attacking, never speaking. Only watching Zalketh change course repeatedly. The ship followed. He hid in an asteroid field. The ship was waiting when they emerged. He jumped to hyperspace. The ship appeared soon after. What do they want? Zalketh demanded. His first officer hesitated, unease written across his face. Commander, I've been checking reports. Other ships from our fleet are experiencing the same thing. Each one has a watcher, always distant, always silent. A cold weight settled in Zalketh's stomach. All of them? All of them, the officer confirmed. It's as if someone knows exactly where every ship from the raid is hiding. Back at Human Military Command, Lieutenant Webb worked without rest. His team had mapped the entire Krell supply chain. They found the refueling depots. They identified the merchants who sold them food and parts. They tracked the information brokers who provided safe routes. And then quietly, systematically, they dismantled it all. A refueling station serving the Krell suddenly suffered mechanical failures. A merchant was arrested on long-buried smuggling charges. An information broker woke to find his accounts frozen. The Krell raiders began to realize the walls were closing in. No fuel, no repairs, no safe harbors. Doors once open were now sealed shut, and always the human ships remained, watching. Never attacking, never even approaching, just following, patient, silent, like ghosts that would never stop. 3 months after the raid, Zalketh's crew was unraveling. Officers jumped at shadows. Soldiers whispered that they were cursed. Every sensor sweep revealed that same human silhouette, watching, waiting. Why don't they attack? Zalketh roared. Why do they just watch? His first officer spoke cautiously. Commander, I don't think they're trying to destroy us. They're wearing us down, like predators following prey until it's too tired to flee. Zalketh remembered the words of Ambassador Vexthor. The old Zetarian had warned him. Now he understood. Humans weren't chasing them out of rage. They were hunting them with patience, and that was far, far worse. 6 months had passed since the massacre at New Terra. The Krell raiding fleet had splintered into 5 groups, each hiding in a different corner of the galaxy. They thought separation would protect them. They were wrong. Every group was shadowed by a human vessel. Every commander reported the same thing. The Watchers never left. Zalketh had tried everything. He changed ships 3 times, boarding vessels with no link to the raid. The humans found him within days. He used false identification codes. The humans didn't care. He even bribed pirates to attack his pursuers. The pirates took his money and ran without a fight. "No one will help us," his first officer reported grimly. "I contacted the syndicate. They said they won't shelter anyone the humans are hunting. They said it's bad for business." Zalketh laughed bitterly. The syndicate, the largest criminal network in the galaxy, feared no empire, obeyed no law. Yet even they would not cross the humans. That said everything. What Zalketh didn't know was that humanity had already infiltrated the syndicate. Lieutenant Webb's agents were everywhere. When the Krell tried to vanish into the underworld, they found the humans waiting for them. "We have visual confirmation on all primary targets," Webb reported to Admiral Chen. "We know where each group is hiding. We've identified every participant in the new Terra raid. We've documented every atrocity." Admiral Chen studied the holographic display, hundreds of red markers scattered across the galaxy. Each one a murderer, each one tracked and tagged. 6 months of quiet, relentless pursuit had brought them here. "Not yet," she said coldly. "Let them run a little longer. I want them to understand there's nowhere left to hide. I want them to feel it." Lieutenant Webb nodded. He understood. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about sending a message that would echo across generations. A warning written in fear. Zalketh made his final, desperate choice. He would return home, to the Krell homeworld, believing his government's protection would keep him safe. But before that, he tried one last hiding place. He led his ship deep into uncharted space to a frozen world absent from every chart. He landed in a valley surrounded by jagged towers of ice. Surely, he thought, they can't find me here. For 3 days, there was silence. Zalketh almost allowed himself to hope. Maybe they'd lost his trail. Maybe he'd finally escaped. On the 4th day, a single human scout ship appeared in the sky. It circled once, then hovered above his position. A communication channel opened. The voice that came through was calm, professional. It didn't shout. It didn't threaten. And somehow that made it far more terrifying. "Commander Zalketh," the voice said evenly, "we know you are there. We know everything you've done. We have evidence of every crime you committed at New Terra. We have proof of every person you killed, every building you destroyed, every life you shattered." The voice paused, calm and deliberate. "You can run again if you want. We'll follow. You can hide somewhere else. We'll find you there too. There is nowhere in this galaxy or any other where you can escape justice. We are patient. We are thorough. We never forget. And we will never stop." The transmission ended. The human ship hovered for a moment, then turned and disappeared into the sky. But Zalketh knew it wasn't gone. It would return. It always would. They would never stop watching, never stop hunting. He was exhausted. His crew was breaking. He couldn't keep running. There was only one place left, home. Surely the Krell government would protect one of their own. 2 weeks later, Zalketh's battered ship entered orbit above the Krell homeworld. He transmitted his identification codes and requested permission to land. The reply came swiftly and froze his blood. "Commander Zalketh, remain in orbit. Do not attempt to land. A delegation is on its way to meet you." A delegation? His stomach turned. Then the sensors detected new contacts, 3 ships entering orbit. They weren't Krell military. They were human diplomatic vessels. Waiting, ready, Zalketh's world collapsed. The humans hadn't just followed him, they had anticipated him. They'd known he would come home. They'd already spoken with his government. A Krell government ship approached, and an official appeared on his screen, face pale and strained. "Commander Zalketh," the official began softly, "the human government has presented evidence of the crimes committed at New Terra. They have supplied complete documentation, every ship, every officer, every act. They have formally requested extradition of all participants to stand trial." Zalketh stared in silence. The official continued, voice heavy with shame. "The evidence is overwhelming. Recordings, sensor logs, witness statements, DNA verification, they know everything. The Krell Council has reviewed it all. We cannot deny the truth. You're handing me over? Zalketh whispered. Your own officer? The official's voice broke. You murdered 50,000 civilians without authorization. You started a war that could have destroyed us all. The humans gave us a choice: surrender those responsible or face economic isolation and military consequences that would end our empire. He met Zalketh's eyes. You brought this upon yourself and upon all of us. The Council has agreed to extradition. All 847 involved will be transferred to human custody. Zalketh slumped back in his chair. He remembered Ambassador Vexthor's words, the warning he'd ignored. The humans had hunted him across the stars, found every hiding place, built a case so airtight that even his own people would not shield him. Now he understood the truth they'd been teaching for 6 relentless months. You can strike at them. You can wound them, but you can never escape them. They will find you. They will always find you. The human tribunal station floated in neutral space, a colossal structure between human and Krell territory, built for one purpose: justice. Delegations from across the galaxy arrived to witness it. All 847 Krell raiders were present. Some had surrendered. Others had been turned in by their governments. A few had resisted and been captured anyway. Not one had escaped. Not a single shot had been fired. Humanity had won without war, through patience, intelligence, and unyielding resolve. The trial lasted 3 months, broadcast across every network in the galaxy. The human prosecutors presented their case with chilling precision. Every crime, every death, every moment of the massacre was laid bare. They proved which Krell had been aboard which ship, who had fired each weapon, and exactly how every civilian life had ended, were sentenced to long terms of labor and rehabilitation. Others, the ones who had ordered bombings, who had personally executed civilians, who had laughed as they destroyed hospitals, were sentenced to life imprisonment on the human penal colonies. The court was silent as the final verdict was read. Commander Zalketh, for your direct command over the massacre at New Terra and for the deaths of more than 50,000 civilians, you are sentenced to life without parole. The courtroom's lights dimmed slightly as the decision was transmitted to every major news network across the galaxy. Billions watched as Zalketh lowered his head. There was no anger in his face now, only understanding. Ambassador Vexthor rose slowly. It is done, he murmured. And the galaxy will remember. The tribunal adjourned. Humanity had not fired a single weapon since the massacre, but their victory was absolute. They had fought a different kind of war, one of evidence, persistence, and moral resolve. Months later, a monument was erected on New Terra. It bore the names of every victim, every investigator, and every human who had refused to give in to vengeance. At its base was an inscription written in a dozen languages. Justice is the weapon that never dulls. Admiral Chen stood before the monument on the day of its unveiling. Around her were representatives of dozens of species, some who had once feared humanity, others who had underestimated them. Let them remember, Chen said quietly. We are not monsters, but we are not prey either. We are hunters, but we hunt for truth. In that moment, the galaxy finally understood the lesson humanity had spent 6 months teaching. You can run from human vengeance, but you can never escape human justice. Showed the trials, the sentences, and the executions that followed. And they never once fired a weapon, the officer said quietly. They didn't need to. The room fell silent. Every general, every strategist understood the message written between those lines. The humans didn't need fleets to win. They needed time. Another officer shifted uneasily. Are we truly so afraid of one species? He asked. The intelligence chief turned toward him. Not afraid, he said, aware. The humans don't forgive, and they don't forget. They record, they pursue, and when they come for you, it's already too late. Far away, on New Terra, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the great memorial again. The names of 50,000 victims were etched into its silver walls. Around it, flowers from 100 worlds had been laid by alien diplomats and soldiers alike. The message engraved at the base had become a proverb across the stars. Justice is patient. Justice is human. Ambassador Vextor, now long retired, stood beside her. "You've changed the galaxy," he said softly. "No one will ever look at humanity the same way again." Chen's expression was distant as she watched the sunset wash over the monument. "We didn't want fear," she said. "Only respect and remembrance." 10 years after the Krell trial, humanity's fleets patrolled the trade routes not as conquerors, but as guardians. No one dared attack them, but more than that, no one wanted to. The galaxy had learned a new kind of deterrence, one born not of firepower, but of conviction, because when humans said justice, they meant it, and somewhere in the deep, silent dark, that truth echoed still. You can flee from their weapons, but never from their memory. The footage showed human vessels chasing Krell ships across the stars. It showed the quiet patience of their investigation. It showed the steady political pressure that even forced the Krell government to surrender their own. "Look at the scale of this," the officer said. "Look at the time, the precision, the result. They found every raider. Not nearly all. Not almost all, every single one," a young general protested. "But we'd hide better than the Krell. We know their methods now. We could evade them." The intelligence officer sighed. That's what the Krell believed. Commander Zalketh wasn't a fool. He tried everything, new ships, false names, hidden worlds. They found him anyway, not because he failed, but because they never stopped searching. He brought up another projection. "The real question isn't if they can find you. It's if you can live knowing they're watching, always watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike." Silence fell. The plan to raid human convoys was quietly discarded. The Threx would find another solution, one that didn't make enemies of mankind, far away, aboard a memorial station orbiting where New Terra once stood. Admiral Sarah Chen walked slowly along the wall of remembrance. Retired now, she still visited often. 50,000 names covered the stone. Each one was a life lost in the raid. Each one a promise that their sacrifice would never fade. A young officer approached. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, fresh from the academy. She had studied the New Terra investigation as a model of justice without mercy. "Admiral Chen," she asked softly, "may I ask something?" Chen smiled. "Of course. Was it worth it?" Kim asked. 6 months of pursuit, all those ships, all that time, just for justice. Was it truly worth it? Chen reached out and touched a name, belonging to a 5-year-old girl. "Every single time," she whispered. "We don't fight because we love war. We fight because we remember. Every name here trusted us to protect them. When we failed, we owed them justice. And we will never stop paying that debt." She turned to Kim. "They call us hunters because we never stop. They say we chase because we're stubborn or vengeful. But we do it because justice matters, because every life matters. If we let crimes go unanswered, we declare that some lives don't count, and we will never accept that." Kim nodded slowly, comprehension dawning. "So yes," Chen continued, "it's worth it. Because the alternative is a galaxy where strength is law and the weak have no justice. Humanity will never accept that, not now, not ever." Elsewhere in the void, a group of pirates gathered around a table, planning their next strike. One showed a lightly armed human freighter, rich with cargo. The captain was about to approve the hit when his second officer paused. "Wait," she said. "Let me check something." She accessed the Galactic Incident Database and pulled up humanity's record. The data was simple and terrifying. In 300 years since first contact, humans had been attacked 47 times. 47 times they'd hunted down every perpetrator. Success rate 100%. No exceptions. The captain stared at the numbers, then quietly deleted the human ship's file. "Find another target," he ordered. Something not human. No one objected. They'd all heard the tales. You could flee from humans, hide in distant sectors, vanish into uncharted space, but they would find you. They always did. The lesson had been written in the blood of the Krell, proven through persistence no one could ignore. Attack humanity if you dare, but understand the price. A price that never fades, a consequence that will follow you to your dying breath. For humanity doesn't hunt from rage or fear. Humanity hunts because justice demands it. And once the hunt begins, it never ends until the ledger is settled. On the Zetarian homeworld, ancient Ambassador Vexthor watched a news feed showing another species canceling a planned raid on human space. He smiled wearily. His people had learned that truth centuries ago at terrible cost. The Krell had learned it a decade past. Now the rest of the galaxy was learning without paying the same price. Perhaps, Vexthor thought, that was the true victory. Not vengeance for the lost, but the prevention of new suffering through understanding. Humanity were no conquerors, no empire builders. They had given the galaxy a single truth. Violence carries consequence. Justice may be slow, but it is inevitable. You can run from humanity, but you will only die tired. Because they will find you. Always. Wherever you go, however long it takes, they will find you. This was humanity's legacy to the stars. Not weapons, not domination. Just a promise that justice will come, always, and the galaxy believed.